countries of Morocco, Algeria and Tunisia were subject to frequent invasions and the influences from the indigenous Berbers to the nomadic Arabs, the Phoenicians and the Romans. This turbulent history is reflected in the culture and food of North Africa. Sousse is a typical example of the holiday resorts that have sprung up along the Mediterranean coast of Tunisia. It's inevitable, really, that the tourists who arrive for a couple of weeks in the sun are also influenced by the smells and the tastes of the country, whether it's the wonderful street food or the hotel buffet. There's plenty here to attract holidaymakers, and although swimming in the Med is rather a risky affair, there's very little current, so the waste product that is flushed into the sea tends to hang around, but it doesn't seem to put people off. The more active are also sport for choice, and everything is available for hire at very reasonable prices, so everything is hunky-dory. Well, not quite. The hotels here are plentiful and modern, but as someone who seems to spend half their life checking in and out of these places, I think it's time hotel owners were told some home truths. Every time I come home from a trip, my friends always ask me, did you enjoy your holiday? Holidays? I don't go on holidays. I go to foreign countries to film and talk about food and drink and music and pottery and all nice things. And in the process of that, I have to stay in hotels, and believe me, I've stayed in them all. 5-star hotels, palaces, fishermen's lodges in the Antarctic. I've been all over the place. And they're all the same. They're all awful, universally awful. Why, when you book a room for 2, do you only get 3 pillows? Why, when you book a room for 2, is there only 1 shampoo and 1 bathrobe? Why does the air condition either rattle and freeze you to death or pack up and you boil in the suffocating temperatures of outside? You come home to the hotel, but unfortunately the restaurant is shut. So you have one choice. Get your wretched room service menu and look through it. And what has it got? The ubiquitous and absolutely abominable club sandwich. Why is it they never, ever have any ice in the minibar? You don't want to have a drink in your room. It's horrible being in a room. Tony Hancock committed suicide in a hotel room, probably because he spent too many nights in a hotel. But there are some compensations. Hotel buffets are at their best if you can be the first in, and of course I'm very privileged. I can have what I like and it's all fresh and all ready. There's some excellent chicken. Now when you see this in places like the UK, it's not real chicken. This at least is real chicken. Beautiful fresh vegetables, croquet potatoes I can take or leave. This I really like, a baked tuna fish with lovely roasted tomatoes and peppers and potatoes. Some squid, so I'm going to test and taste that as your official. That is really nice. Lovely pieces of squid, nice tomato, delicate, fresh, and jolly tasty. And then, and if there's one criticism I have of all the hotels, they never really do enough of the local specialities. But here at least we have one. A wonderful Tunisian spicy beef dish with chickpeas, tomato sauce, paprika, chilies, and quite a nice thing to do, even on a cooked dish, is to add little bits of chopped raw onion, and that makes it nice and crunchy. That is the kind of food they cook in the countryside. It's delicious. The meat is tender, the sauce is unctuous, slightly spicy, very agreeable. The beef is a little tiny bit fatty, which is important because it gives a lovely flavour to the juice. So, all in all, off the top of my head, I would give this buffet a really seriously good 7 out of 10. Wandering through the ancient city of Sousse and its splendid, colourful market is an appetising experience. So, mid-morning and time for a snack. Now, these are fabulous little omelettes made with tuna fish, parsley and chilies. They're then put into the bread here, which is spread with harissa on one side and meshoui, which is a mixture of peppers, parsley and onions and tomatoes on the other side. S'il vous plaît, je peux avoir une?
Oui, monsieur. Pizza caura, schoonet power, rekken minna kenne hour.
Ah, well, that's all clear, isn't it? You see, they speak these strange languages. It means, go away, you white television person, you. Merci beaucoup. Beautiful omelette, spicy, fishy, chilies, in wonderful bread, and only 1 dinar. Absolutely magnificent. Well, that's about 50 pence to you and me. Now then, what else can I find to buy? All Mediterranean countries share one thing in common. It's the extensive use of pulses, herbs, spices, dried fruit, and nuts. But one thing which separates Tunisia from the other Mediterranean countries is their use of this wonderful stuff, the chili. They love their food really spicy. Une tranche, monsieur, s'il vous plaît. Now, this is what really spices the food up. And it is said, I have to tell you this, Steve, if you're paying attention, that the Tunisian men reckon that if their wives don't really ladle in the chilies into their food, they have no more passion for them and love them no more. So a man watches very... Ah, merci. 6 dirhams, c'est ça? Merci bien. So they watch very carefully to see how many of these she puts in the dinner. You know what I mean? The legacy of the Roman Empire is much in evidence throughout North Africa, but the amphitheatre El Jem is certainly one of the most impressive and well preserved. It's a very eerie feeling walking through the underground passageways, for it was here that the lions, the Christians, and the gladiators were housed. The audience of up to 35,000 people would be entertained from dawn till dusk with contests which would inevitably end in death. The only certainty for the Christians held here was that eventually they'd be brought up into the light and the stage set for one last performance. One of Tunisia's most important exports is olive oil. They've got 21 million trees, and by the way, each tree yields about 50 kilos of fruit. It was the same nearly 2,000 years ago. This area produced lots and lots of olive oil. So the Romans taxed them to get the money to build this magnificent Colosseum. In fact, it's in better state of repair than the one they modelled it on, which is in Rome. The trouble was, they tried to squeeze the olive growers too much. So they revolted. So the building was never finished because they wouldn't pay any more money. But in return, the Romans sacked their town. Tough, isn't it? Anyway, that's got nothing to do with the next dish, which is a very simple but quite curious Tunisian beef stew. So I'll turn my gas right up and fry some meat. Just a little bit of butter so it's nice and brown all the way around. Into that, a little bit of garlic. So I add some caraway seeds and cumin and a load of tomato puree. And a load of water and season with salt and pepper. Now we'll let that cook away now for, a good half an hour. And then I'm going to add the very special secret ingredient, which is not this stick of cinnamon. There's a very special ingredient to go into this remarkable dish. So we'll let that cook slowly away. Now we add our secret ingredient. 1 heaped teaspoonful of coffee. Finely ground coffee beans. And mix that right in. Bizarre, but delicious. Just in the last few remaining minutes, while that all amalgamates. Finally, I'll add some raw chopped onions, tomatoes and parsley. The subtle coffee flavour with the beef and spices is truly a taste of Tunisia. This very thin sliver, this very thin pancake is known as a brique. It's a great Tunisian speciality. It's semolina flour rolled out very, very thin. It's a bit like the pastry they put round a wonton or a spring roll. It's similar to phyllo pastry. You could, in fact, use phyllo pastry. Basically, a brique has a broken egg into it and it's deep fried. But they have various kinds of fillings. I'm going to put in some prawns chopped up prawns, some little bits of onion, a couple of capers, a bit of mint and parsley mixed together, and some chili. So it's a nice spicy one. Then you break open an egg into the middle of it, wipe some of the egg white around the edge, and you do have to use your hands for this. I'm very sorry, I'm not wearing rubber gloves, and that's how it is. And then you fold that bit over there and stick it down as best you can. Then you lift it up and plop it into deep fat. And let that cook away for about 2 minutes. Now, time to turn it over. You then lift it out. Plop it onto a plate with a wedge of lemon, which is always eaten with, and for my preference, a little bit of harissa, which is hot chili paste mixed with lemon juice and olive oil. And if you were to cut through the middle of that, which I'm going to, you will have a beautifully eggy prawn spicy treat. On my way to Tunisia, I decided to have a brief stop off in Marrakesh, the imperial city that was once the capital of the Berber Empire. The Arabs ended the Byzantine rule in Morocco in the 7th century, and the previously Christian and pagan people soon accepted the Muslim religion. The Berber troops continued the spread of Islam, crossing the Gibraltar Straits into southern Spain. Today, to visit Marrakesh is to glimpse its rich history. The souk, with its myriad of narrow streets and alleys, is home to thousands of craftsmen who maintain a tradition and a way of life unchanged for hundreds of years. Millions of acres of wheat are grown in Morocco, and bread forms a vital part of the diet. Every morning sees a constant stream of the locals bringing in prepared dough, and the delicious smell of freshly baked bread fills the surrounding streets. At dusk, the last of the market square entertainers give way as the serious business of cooking and eating takes center stage. One of the classic Moroccan dishes is called a tagine. A tagine is this mystical shape of earthenware and pottery. Inside, and cooking over charcoal, I've got some pieces of chicken which I had to buy live in the market this morning. I can assure you it was warm even before it went into the pot. Onions and garlic. Right, the next thing we do to that is put in some ground cinnamon. Then we put in some ground ginger. Give that all a bit of a stir round. This is a sweet and fragrant and spicy dish. Then we put a little bit of turmeric in. You will see as this develops, it'll have the most wonderful colors and the most amazing flavor. Then, one thing which is very important to Moroccan cooking is pickled, do excuse me please, pickled lemons. They're put into water with salt and spices, and then they're used for cooking dishes like this. They add the sour side, the sour flavor to the dish. So we'll put those in straight away. Then that most exotic of all spices and herb, saffron. Now, don't stint yourself on the saffron. I know it's expensive, but it just makes this dish absolutely sensational. Then, because as I promised, this is going to be a spicy and a sweet and a sour dish, my secret ingredient is going to be some apricot jam. Now, many recipes will call for some kind of sugar or maybe tomato jam, but this is a terribly good way to do it. Then, before we put the lid on, and this thing serves to act as a bit of a pressure cooker, we add a little drop of water. We add a little pepper, a little salt, a tiny bit of tomato puree, stirred in there. And if you actually look around, they're all staring at me thinking, what is this crazy Englishman doing cooking our food? But I can assure you, this is real, this is authentic.
We'll leave that to simmer for about 30 minutes, and in the meantime I've poached some prunes and some sugar and a little cinnamon, and I'll add these to the dish.
Then we're going to add some toasted almonds, and some toasted sesame seed, and finally some fresh coriander and fresh parsley. And there is the first part of the banquet. This method of training grapes to grow along bamboo trellises is, I am told, unique to Marrakesh. It was started hundreds of years ago by the Jewish settlers here, who also drank wine, which of course the Moroccans don't. It is absolutely 100% natural. There are no insecticides used here. In fact, the way they get rid of insects is by attracting them to a brightly coloured orange, which is covered with glue. The colour attracts them, they hit the glue, and bingo, the grapes are left alone. This modest cabin behind me, not exactly a grand chateau you might expect to find in a French vineyard, but it plays the very important purpose of being home to the bird scarer. As I said, this is a completely organic vineyard, and to keep the birds away, this chap fires with his catapult wadges of mud at them and keeps here at night when the birds go to sleep, of course. Now, in about 2 weeks' time, the grapes will be picked, sent up north to the winery, and turned into Cabernet. And this, it must be the Moroccan sunshine, is really soft and very rich, very fruity. Absolutely delicious. It's a great shame the Moroccans themselves can't enjoy it. But don't worry, help is at hand. I'm here for a couple of weeks, so I'll get rid of some of it. Time for my next dish, lamb couscous. Some of the ingredients are vegetables of your choice: carrots, courgettes, chickpeas, okra, leeks, little baby turnips, harissa, which is a puree of chilies, saffron and tomatoes. Here in the pot, I've got a shoulder of lamb frying away with some olive oil, onions and garlic. The next thing that goes in is a load of tomato.
The water goes in and I add some carrots, courgettes, leeks, turnips and chickpeas in order of cooking time.
And finally, some okra. Ladies' fingers, and a very popular vegetable here in Morocco. Then, what we do, while that simmers away for about 2 hours, we put on the colander top, inside of which is the couscous. And as the steam rises from the pot, it'll penetrate the couscous and make us a wonderful cooked semolina to accompany the dish.
A classic Moroccan feast of chicken tagine with poached prunes and vegetables and a wonderfully spicy lamb couscous.
The market square is the heart of Marrakesh, and as the sun sets, the snake charmers, fortune tellers and acrobats make way for a legion of food vendors who immediately fill the air with the aroma of exotic spices, spits of roasted mutton and deep-fried fish. This is much more than just eating. It's an experience, and one that is shared every evening by visitors and locals alike who sit side by side, enjoying an inexpensive feast.
Five-star hotels, gourmet restaurants, who needs it? Here in Marrakesh, you can eat like a prince, like a king for virtually nothing. And by the way, Channel 5 are paying for it, which is great. Lovely spicy harissa and heart kebabs. Quite delicious. Deep-fried fish. Vegetables cooked with saffron and lamb. And a lovely, refreshing tomato salad with coriander and onions. No more high life for me. I like the street life. One of the great Moroccan specialities are these lovely little spicy sausages called merguez. And I must give up smoking, really. The other great speciality is lamb's heart, simply barbecued and eaten once again with this lovely spicy harissa. You could in fact say, I left my heart in Marrakesh. This nice little minced lamb balls is called a tagine, and that's again in saffron and lemon juice and mint and coriander, quite delicious. Some good mutton stew, an estofade of vegetables, pieces of fried fish, wonderful aubergines, deep-fried red and green peppers, and more fish, chicken, salads, and some spinach, which I'll have a little bit of spinach. Incidentally, there's no need to be worried about places like this. The food is freshly cooked, served very rapidly, so there's no danger of food poisoning, and also the tourist police will look after you. If you get ripped off, they'll come back and get your money back. It's great. And so is the spinach.
The final leg of my gastronomic journey now takes me to the mysterious land of pyramids and temples. I'm off to Egypt.